Hello, hello. It's Vivian Davis. We'll be starting here in about 3 minutes. So bear with me, and we're just going to wait for a couple of folks to sign on. Trying to get comfy in my seat. I guess I could have put on a musical interlude in the interim. If you join in, please make yourself known. I think I have notifications on this time around. We have another minute or so. So welcome, it's Vivian Davis. It's about 2 o'clock right now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am looking at my feed through my phone this time and actually recording it through my computer. So hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties. I thought I'd give it a shot this way. Anyway, I'm going to be teaching another step-by-step painting today, and I am sure that you guys are happy to join. I know it's kind of a tough time right now. Everybody kind of stuck indoors. Even the people that are going to work, I'm sure that they're nervous and anxious when they get home. And if you're feeling anything at all like my friend, the Wookiee, well, hopefully I'll make you feel better today. But if you're tired of being inside and you want to go out and you want to hang out with people, well, guess what? Life's a beach. Honestly, we're all tired of it, but that's why I'm doing these. I'm hoping to bring a little bit of joy into people's homes, and I will continue to have 3 sessions a week. Again, I may change the times, but right now they are scheduled for 2 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So today, again, we're doing step-by-step painting. We are painting, I thought this was very appropriate for the time. I did this painting actually for a group at Bon Secours. They were part of the mental health group and wanted a theme. And so this is what we came up with. And I haven't used it since. So I thought, well, this is a good time because we're not alone. In this day where we have all kinds of social media available to us, obviously our telephones, FaceTime, Skype, everything else, we can still communicate with the people we love. Unfortunately, we just can't give them a real hug. So here we are. Okay, so we're going to paint this today. Now, in the information I provided for materials, I said you could use any rectangular shape canvas. So it doesn't matter what size. The one you're looking at right now is a 12 by 16. The last painting I did was on a 12 by 16, but today I decided I was going to work on an 11 by 14 canvas. So you see I have a smaller one here. It's the same difference. I'm going to bring it a little closer to the screen, and we're going to work basically with the same dimensions, more or less. Now you have the option when you paint that if you want to change up your birds, if you want to change the wording, if you even want to change the background color, again, it's all up to you. So, hey Laura, how are you? So I am going to work with the colors that are on this. I considered doing a blue background, so if that's an option you want to use, where I'll talk you through what colors. But we're going to start with this grouping. And I have some yellow paint. A deep yellow is useful, or you could use something like a cadmium yellow, so you can choose either one of those. Something similar to that, just a bright yellow. We will include a little bit of white potentially if we want to lighten up the center of that sun just a tiny bit. And then I have got some bright red paint, but any bright red paint will do. So if you have some red, even if you have some magenta, magenta will work. And then for some of the outside, I did mix in a little bit of burnt sienna, and it's just so sad. This is all I have of burnt sienna right now. I have to order some more of this color. And let's see, I think, oh, and the last color we'll need is black. So I just have a small tube of the Artist Loft. I have lots of black paint here, but this one was easy for me to grab, so it's an ivory black, okay? And that's the colors that you need. I also said you guys needed a cup of water so you can rinse your brushes. The brushes that I use, and if you take some of these with me, you'll kind of get used to this. I have 4 different brushes here. I'm probably only going to really use maybe 3 of them. And they are by a company called Princeton Art and Brush Company. So I really like these brushes. They come in orange, and then some of them come in green for a different size. Can't figure out where you are. There you go, right here. So we just want a small brush. Now, for these lines, you're going to need either an angled brush or perhaps a smaller pointed round brush. So I also have, I'll show you that here, one of these, which is kind of a liner, and that kind of helps also to do kind of a thin line. And it doesn't matter too much how wide your lines are. It'll just affect the size of your birds, because this is supposed to be like, you know, telephone wire or something, or wire that's strung across. And we're going to go ahead in this case and sketch a little bit first. Not a lot, just a little, just to give you some points. And so if you want to grab a pencil and you don't have one now, go ahead and take a moment and do that. I'm going to move this aside. If you have a picture of the painting somewhere on your computer, or you've printed it out, keep that handy. So that way you can kind of look at what I'm doing and have a guide for that. Oh, let me just move to my screen here. I think you guys can still see. The lighting is kind of iffy. I wish it were a little brighter. I know you guys can see that fairly well, but I work in a space that has a lot of windows, and when it's bright outside, it gives me a little darker inside. I forgot to mention that, yeah, if you guys want to use kind of a blue tone, I would suggest maybe an ultramarine for the darker color, and either a cerulean blue or some form of a lighter blue to do that background if you want to work with the blues. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. We're going to use a pencil, and hopefully you can see a little bit of what I'm doing. But the main thing I want to do is just kind of plot out where the lines are going to be. And then we're going to end up painting over them, but we're going to be able to see most of it, or at least see the angle of some of it, so that when we go back with the black, we'll be able to see it better. So once you get the lines on the way you like them, if you want to go over it one more time, we are going to be covering it in black. That is the only reason I make that exception with pencil, because I don't typically like pencil on the canvas. But we're going to be covering it with black, so it's not as big a deal. Now this is a drawing process, and for the letters that I can't guarantee unless you have a steady hand they're going to be perfect letters, but you can make them very simple. My letters have kind of have those little pieces here on, bottom, top, off to the side. You can just do straight letters, whatever makes it easier for you. But we're going to go ahead and do all of that now so that it's easier when we do it in black. Okay? So we're going to start out with the lines. Now the lines are at an angle, so we're going to have one that comes down this way and we're going to have one that goes up this way, but we need enough space in between to put the birds. So we don't want to go up, we don't want them too close together. So I would say we're going to leave at least 3 fingers apart on the side for the lines on the right side. So in that case, I'm going to go to the middle of my canvas right here. I don't want to use that finger, but you know what that finger's for. Okay, so we're going to put that in the middle of the canvas, put the other 2, and then I want to drop it down just a little. Drop it down just a little, make yourself a notch here, and then go down 3 fingers and make yourself another notch. Okay, can you guys see that? Probably not that well. All right. Then on the other side, I'm going to cross over to the other side of the canvas. Since these are going to be at an angle, I'm going to bring one down about, I don't know, maybe 3 fingers from the bottom, probably 2 fingers from the bottom. 2 to 3, somewhere in there. I want you to make a little mark. And I'm going to go way towards the top and probably come down about 3 fingers there. Maybe 4, 3 to 4 fingers. Somewhere in there, and make a little notch. Now, if you're not comfortable doing straight lines and you have a ruler handy, you can use a ruler. The lines don't have to be perfectly straight, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. We're going to connect this line to this line. So if you just go real slow, or you kind of make it sketchy, because remember you're going to paint over this. You can straighten the line later. And if you have a moment to go find a ruler, you can do it now or you can do it later. And then I'm going to connect this one to this one. And I'm just going to kind of sketch it across. So I'm painting at a kind of an interesting angle so that I can set up my computer in between. Thankfully, I have a Surface Pro, so it works like a, what do you call it, like a tablet. So that kind of helps. Okay. And then, like I said, once you get your lines the way you like them, if you want to grab a ruler and go over those lines, you can do that. Then I would make them a little bit darker. I'm just dragging my finger across. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing up here. So here to here. Follow your line, trust yourself a little bit. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. There we go. Oops, maybe I don't like that one. So I'll fix that a little bit. Okay, so that should be easy. 2 lines across. All right. Now, for the letters, which is what we're going to do next, we have to space this out. Because the last thing you want to happen is you run out of space when you get to the end, and that's why we're trying this in pencil. So we're going to draw those very lightly. Now, each word is going to be a little wider than my finger. Okay, so a little wider than my finger means that I can kind of plot that out with my finger. And if you want to say something about, something different, it doesn't have to say not alone. If you want to say hope, if you want to say love or friendship, or I wouldn't do friendship, maybe too long, but maybe friends, something inspirational for the time, feel free. Not too many letters, and you want to, depending on the size of your canvas, you might have room for more. And then you want to plot them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot out kind of using my fingers. So with not alone, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the O is going to be a heart, and it doesn't have to be a heart, but if you're going to make a heart, you're going to need a little extra space for that. So you're going to probably leave 2 fingers. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces plus a space in between. So that's 9 spaces. So if I figure out with my finger, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces, it should fit. So I know that I can go about finger maybe a little wider. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you now with my pencil. So I'm going to have, and I'm not going to draw on here too much, but I'm just going to kind of shape it out for you. So maybe, let's say, and so I'm going to go real light. I'm going to say this is my N, and I want my N to be at, you can put them at an angle. My first one kind of goes at an angle, kind of hanging down. So maybe that's a block. I'm going to draw kind of a block. Very light, because we're going to cover that up and then we can erase it afterwards. So this is just kind of a block planning out the letter. Okay, and then we're going to go with the O, and I'm going to come over a little bit, and I'm going to give my block for the O, and then the T. It's almost like I'm doing little pieces of paper, but very light, because if you draw these dark, you're not going to be able to erase that pencil very well, and that yellow will not cover it. So that's my N-O-T. Then I'm going to leave a space, and I'm going to come over, and this is how I know if I have the right amount of space planned. I want the letters about the same size, so that's my A, and then my L, right? Then I'm going to have a heart, so if you want to kind of draw a heart in there now, my heart is at a little bit of an angle. So there's my heart, that's my O. And then I have 2 more letters, right? I have an N, which this one's going to be a little straighter than the last one. And then I have an E. And this is easy because you'll be able to write it in there. So looks like I left about the same amount of space. I have about 2 fingers, 2 to 3 fingers on either side. So I could maybe shift them over a little left, and that's my spacing. So I'm going to give you guys a moment to catch up with that. From there, what we're going to do is draw those letters in. And again, we're doing them in pencil because when we do the yellow, it will show through the yellow. So the key is we're going to draw those letters in, and then we're going to erase anything that's around those letters so that part doesn't show. The birds we can add in later. We should be fine. We'll kind of do those really lightly and then fill them in. So I'm not going to draw those out now, but I did want to space out those letters. It's harder to do those on the paint with pencil, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my N. Now, at the top of the N, there is a clothespin, so it looks like a long, thin rectangle, and I'm going to draw that because it's actually attached to the top of my N, which is right here. And since I have that in an angle, I'm going to go ahead and do that line. And then from there I can come up, and then I can come back down. And then if you want to add the little line at the bottom here, little line at the top here, so you've got one there and then one there. There's your N. Don't fill it in dark yet. Let's make sure all our letters fit, and then I'll give you one more chance to do that. So the O obviously isn't going to work in the square, so I had to make sure I erase those extra lines. But in the very center of the O is, again, another clothespin. So earlier I said a wire. I don't know if I didn't mean electrical wire. I guess I meant sort of a hanging wire. It would be a good idea to put clothespins on an electrical wire, now would it? Okay, so there's my clothespin. So that gives me, that kind of centers it so that I can go ahead in that little box I drew and just go ahead and draw an O. Okay, sketchy is fine. You're going to fix it when you paint it. Okay, so you can see the N, you can see the O. And now I'm going to do the T. So for the T, Same thing, clothespin. This clothespin actually comes down a little further. You can make them at interesting angles if you wish. And then I'm going to maybe not center it, but just put that line down for the T. And then you just kind of muscle memory. You're going to want to go the same height down if you can. And there's my N-O-T. How are we doing? So far, so good? All right. So next, letter A. Now I came over quite a bit when I started, and I don't need as much space as I needed. That's why I said make sure you make that light. So I'm going to move everything over a tiny bit and come over here with that A. So I'm going to go ahead and put my clothespin maybe at this angle. And then obviously the top of the A needs to be in the center of that. That should be my A. And then for the L, give myself a little bit of space. Again, I started really well with spacing, so I'll have more space over here. And I'm going to put this one at a little bit of an angle. And this time I did the, oops, don't want to go all the way down on that, just on top. I did the L first because I wanted to make sure I left enough space. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my clothespin just above that. Holding on to that L. The heart is not going to have a clothespin. The heart is going to have the bird. So my heart is a little further over, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that. So I said start out light. I'm going to erase some of this other stuff around it while I'm at it. And my heart is going to be here. I'm going to let part of the heart touch the line so it looks like the bird's actually holding it up. So I'm going to start here down below the line. And I'm going to do this at an angle. And when I come back up, I'm going to bring that part there. And that just gave me a piece above the line for the bird to grab a hold of. Okay, erase what you don't want. And if you're waiting on me at any point, come back, do some erasing over here. As soon as we finish this part, we're going to go ahead and start painting. Okay, you don't want any of the pencil showing other than the letters. Okay, so all the way around that, and including in the heart. All right, so far so good. Okay, we're moving on to the N. And so again, I'm going to start the N about here rather than doing the clothespin first, and bring my line down here. We're going to kind of mimic this one. So take a look at that other N you did. So we can make it as close as we can. And then give yourself kind of muscle memory, kind of go over this one once. And that way when you do this, you're more likely to do it close to the same. And then line straight up. Little line here. And then of course, I'm going to do my clothespin at an angle here. We want enough room to put the bird in here. So, bird's going to be here. His body's going to be here. His tail will go right over that clothespin. So I'm thinking that I might want to even move this N a little bit. just a tiny bit. I'm going to go this way. We should be all right. And clothespin. And I'll bring it down below. If you bring it down below, it might be better so it doesn't interfere with the tail. Kind of hard to plan that out. Okay, that should give yourself a room for a little bird. And then if we need to, you can always move your heart over a little. And that will help. Okay. All right, last but not least, E. So I'm going to come over a little, maybe make this one at an even sharper angle this way. Kind of plan your height by coming back right over the one you just did. And then clothespin right here. Okay, clothespin, 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 clothespin. All right, so hopefully you're fairly centered. Looks like I left better space this time. Looks like I have almost 3 fingers here, almost 3 fingers there. And now again, just get rid of any lines that you don't want. So down here, if you were sketchy and you've got some lines you don't need, maybe over here where I started my little niche and then I didn't exactly come back to it. Maybe here. Any lines you want to get rid of, go ahead and get rid of them now. And then we're going to go start painting. Now, best practices is you want to make sure you wet your brush before you start. And you want to clean your brush periodically. Make sure that you get all the paint off of it in between changing colors, or if you're not using that brush, because if you leave the paint on the brush, it will dry and it'll ruin your brush long term. So I'm typically a little pickier when I have a class and I have people using my brushes, but I figure you guys want to take care of your own brushes too. Okay, so that should be good. I'm going to put my pencil down. We have about 2 hours for this session, and that was about 25 minutes, so we have plenty of time to paint this. The birds, like I said, we're going to do later. And so for right now, we're going to end up starting with yellow on the entire painting. Okay, entire canvas, which means if you want to put some yellow out on the outside of the canvas, you can too. So I'm using my flat brush. I'm going to wet my brush. And I guess I should put a little bit of paint on my easel. I should say easel on my palette. I am using a foam plate, and paper plate's fine. If you have a plastic easel, that's better for obviously saving the earth. This is not exactly the best thing to use, but these are really easy to clean up. You just throw them away later. So I tend to use that more for classes, and I'm being a little lazy today because I do own some palettes I could have used. Okay, so I'm going to take this yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it because my yellow is very thick. If you have a very runny yellow, you might not need to. And then I'm going to cover the entire canvas with this bright yellow. Now, if you don't want to paint inside the clothespins, you don't have to. But as you can see, you'll be able to go right over it, okay, and still be able to see it. So it's up to you. If you painted too light, I mean, if you drew it too light, you might not. See how you can see really, really well through that? That was why we went ahead. And they, first time you paint this, you know, if you have a drawing pencil, sometimes it might smear a little, so be gentle. Don't try to push the color around too much around the letters. That's part of the reason I don't like using pencil on canvas. But we're going to come back with another coat later anyway. So, but don't push too hard. Just go gentle around it. And you shouldn't smear it. Okay? Doesn't matter where you start. If you think it's too bright, you want to add a little white to it, feel free. This was supposed to mimic the sun. Kind of add a little sunshine into your life. It was a little overcast here earlier, and we had some fog, but it's nicer now. Temperatures are going to be, I think, low 70s, something like that. I'm in Virginia. I didn't introduce myself with this video yet because I assume, which is silly, that people come onto my website before, or my page, I should say, my Facebook page, and check it all out before they take this, but they might not. So again, my name is Vivian Davis. I'll give you a little bit of history on me. I was actually born down south, born in Miami. My parents are from Cuba. And I grew up in Georgia, and I lived in Florida for a while, a couple times in my life, and then, actually 3 times in my life. And then I moved to Maryland, and I was in Maryland for around 20 years, a lot longer than I originally had planned to be. I'm a Southern girl at heart, and my original plan was to come back south as soon as possible, but I met this wonderful man who I proceeded to marry, and we've raised our children together. We blended our families, and I stayed in Maryland. So when my youngest daughter decided to go to college, I wanted to get the heck out of Dodge. We had talked about moving coastal. Not a huge fan of Ocean City or Salisbury, Maryland, which is where my husband was born and raised. I wanted to be somewhere closer to the south, but I realized how much I was going to miss my children. So we started looking in Virginia and considered North Carolina. It's a little longer of a drive, but fell in love with this Virginia Beach area. And I guess the main reason would be it's just there's water everywhere. So I wanted to get involved with the arts community as soon as I possibly could. I had been running some art programs up in Maryland, doing fundraisers with different painting events, teaching classes for kids and adults. And so I applied to be a resident artist at the Art Center, which is in Norfolk, Virginia. And now I have a studio there. And we were supposed to do some of these classes there this month, but because of the COVID-19 guidelines, everything's been canceled. And I could go back to my studio to pick up materials, which I've already done once, but I guess I feel kind of awkward about working there because there are other studios, and so you're again taking a risk, I guess. So I've been working from home. So I'm actually at home working in my little studio space, even though I went ahead and tagged the Art Center because since I'm a resident artist there, normally I would have been doing these sessions there. All right, so you should have the canvas filled with yellow paint. And once you get that finished, go ahead and rinse your brush. And if you want to paint the outsides of your canvas, you can do that. I actually could, but I don't want it to lift up my canvas, so maybe I'll do it later, which is a possibility too. All right, so we're going to let that dry just a little bit, and we're going to take some white. We're going to use some white paint next. A little bit of white paint. And so if you want to pour some white paint onto your palette, now, if you haven't put the other colors there already, you can certainly do that. Sometimes I wait when I'm painting at home. When I teach a class, we usually have all our colors out there, but they will dry, and I have a fan going above my head, so I'm just now putting paint on my plate. So you can put your red down, your burnt sienna. If you don't have burnt sienna, you can use any type of a brown or an auburn, or you'll be able to take a little bit of black and maybe make a burgundy with the black and red. These are warm colors, so I am using a bright red, but if you have a warmer red, that works well. I have this Venetian red color too, which works well. I don't use that color very often, but it's really good for bricks. So if you want to try a little Venetian red, I might even throw some on my palette. Oh my goodness, maybe not. It's been a long time since I used this paint. It just came out in a big messy drip. So I'm going to pass on that. All right, and then make sure you get a little bit of black on your plate. But black you can also wait on until the last bit if you want. Okay, you kind of saw me. Just realized you guys can sort of, if I get in that camera angle, see me pour paint. Okay, I got all my colors on my plate. And I'm going to need more yellow. So if you have a little bit of yellow left on your plate, that'll be enough to start. But I actually was looking for a brighter yellow. A lighter yellow. Let's see what I have. I have this medium yellow. I don't think that's going to be any different than this, but I'm going to try it anyway. It's U-tracked, this color. So let's see if it's any lighter. It's about the same. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay. All right. So what I wanted to do is just where the center of the sun is. So you guys can kind of see that. See where the center is? I want to put more yellow there, but I want it to be a little more lemon yellow, just to kind of be a little brighter. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and mix it in just a little bit of the yellow that I already have. That's why I was looking for a lighter yellow, but this is good. And not light enough. So you see how when I paint that, you can see it a little bit lighter, not a whole lot. But I'm just going to go all around in kind of a circle. And kind of go up here, and I'm going to show you, because it's hard to see here, I'm going to kind of show you in white only. Okay, I don't want a line, so in order to avoid the line, you do have to blend it around. I just want it to suddenly be a little brighter in the middle. By the time we add all our colors, it'll start to get a little darker. So I'm coming in here. A little bit of white. And if it gets too light, you can come back with your color. With your yellow. Mix a little white while you're painting. This gives you an opportunity too, that if for any reason you smeared some of that pencil when you were painting, you can go around those letters. And I'm still using my flat brush, but you're welcome to use a round brush if you're not comfortable going in between the letters with this one. But that'll clean that up too and make it nice and neater. So you can go inside. So for example, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my water temporarily. Grab a big round brush. So I'm using this right here. And pick up some of that yellow and that white, and then I can go in between as well. All right, oops. Actually got some bright yellow in there. I'm cleaning up the lines around that heart. Okay, you're not really going to see a big difference until we start painting the color around it, but all right. So it's assumed that it's there. All right, around there, we have to blend colors, and in order to blend colors, it's impossible to blend unless you have two colors to blend, and they both have to be wet. So by now, if you touch your canvas, more than likely this is dry. So that's why I started in the middle. You made yourself a little barrier where we're not going to paint inside this circle, other than just a little bit so that we don't have a solid line. So if you still don't know where that barrier is and you want to paint a little extra white along the edges of that circle, feel free, but I don't want you to go in that. We need that area to dry. So now that we know that area we're not touching, we know we need to put paint on the outer edge of that so we can blend that burnt sienna and the yellow and then the red. So I'm going to take yellow, the straight yellow we used before, and right along the edge. See how much brighter it is when I come back and I put that in there? Can everybody see that? See how much brighter it is? That's why I wanted you to add a little white, because I want to make sure that this just stays yellow. And we'll come back and we'll touch up that inner area again later. So I'm going to come out here and I'm just going to put a little bit of that yellow all the way around. Gentle around the letters. And now you should be able to see that circle a little bit better. And I'm going to keep going. Keep putting some yellow around there. And at some point, because we covered those penciled letters with paint, you should be able to do this without smearing any more of that. So when you paint, wet your brush, grab a little bit of yellow, go all the way around in a circle, all the way around in a circle. And every now and then you can drag a teeny tiny bit into that circle I told you not to touch. Just a teeny bit along the edge. I want you to go out a little further. And we're going to start adding. Make sure you wet your brush, dip it in the paint, go all along the outside. So every time I wet my brush and pick up paint, I want it to stay wet. Okay. So now I will have created maybe 1.5 to 2 inch ring around that center that's wet. Every now and then bring a little into the middle, not too much, just going, making that circle a tiny bit smaller. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up a little bit of red and you're going to mix it with a little bit of yellow. So you're essentially creating an orange. Let me mix that and kind of show you. See how I'm kind of creating a little bit of an orange there to the left? I don't want it to be that dark, so I'm going to keep adding a little bit of yellow to it, or adding a tiny bit of orange to the yellow. Yellow to the red. So you should have about this color here. And once you have that color, now this is starting to dry, which means we're probably not going to be able to paint too much into it without pulling paint back up. So I'm going to go around it very quickly, like a circle. And I don't want you to blend any into the middle. Okay, none into the middle. Clean your brush once you get a circle around there. And then take that brush, dry it off just a tiny bit, and then I want you to blend that color out. And then blend it in a teeny bit. So down, inside, and on the outside. Inside and on the outside. I'm making this painting a little brighter than my original. And when I say brighter, kind of lighter, because I want to keep it really soft. The original painting feels more like fall to me. Okay. So remember, you can't blend if the color's not wet. So once that paint on the outside starts to dry, you're not going to be able to blend it anymore. And I want you to blend it out until you can't go out any further to the corners. Take some water, pick up some of that orange, and you can add some more on the outside. Because now we're not worried about as much going in circles as we are initially when we start around the sun. Okay, so we started out here, right? And we kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now I'm working on the outside parts. So I'm not worried about moving in the direction of the circle. I'll rub some in there and then I'll move it around in that direction. So you still want to have like the rings around the sun kind of thing. But you obviously you can't go off the canvas. So I'm just kind of pretending like I'm going on and off the canvas. Using that orange. If you need to make more, make some more. I'm going to stop here in a minute. We're going to take a break from it because we want it to dry. So right now you should have what looks like a very light orange around that sun. Yellow orange. Will get darker. Don't worry. Still got that orange going. Then I'm blending it out and then making it look like it's going in that direction. Okay. Now I feel like I went up too high for my circle up here, so I'm going to go ahead and inch this in a tiny bit. Bring some of that color in. It's not going to be able to blend because I don't have wet paint there. But see how I gave myself a little bit more of an edge up there. I'm not really centered real well. And then if you did the same, you can take some of that lemon yellow, which is that original yellow and a little bit of white, and actually bring the circle down lower here if you want. It's all fixable. Okay, so now my circle's here and not as high as it was. Okay, then we're going to let it dry. Every now and then I see a pencil mark that shouldn't have, eraser mark, so I don't like pencil. All right, how are we looking? So if you're painting along with me and you want to take a picture of what you're working on so far and post it to the discussion page of the event or even in the comment section of the video, I don't know if it will let you do that. I'm looking to see if I can. See a pencil mark that should be not eraser mark, so I don't like pencil. Oops. All right, how are we looking? I gotta turn my volume down on my phone because I'm behind. It's really funny. It's interesting if you watch like what I have on my computer. If I watch it on my phone at the same time, it's delayed. It's got a little bit of delay. So I went ahead and turned that volume down, which is better. Huh, interesting. Okay, so it should be drying. The next thing we're going to do now, we hadn't worked in the center much, so we'll go ahead and go back to the center. And in order to do that, you want to make sure that it's dry, so double check it. You should have some wet right along the edges, but right in there in the center, now I want you to go back and I want you to add that bright yellow again. Okay? Originally, I wanted you to add some white to it so that we would know where to work from, where to work outside from. So I'm going to come in and put a little bit of the bright yellow. And then we're going to do another coat along the outside. Now if it's too bright, again, you can go ahead and add a little bit of white to it. If you're saying, well, no, I can't really see it really well, add a little bit of white to it. And then go around. Okay, just in the center. Just in the center. You should still be able to see your letters. Okay. All right. Kind of liked my lemon yellow, but I didn't want it to look white. Okay. Check the outside. If you're not painting too thick, it should dry pretty quick. I also have a fan above my head, so I'm not exactly good at gauging where you guys are since you're not in person with me. But now I've got the center the way I like it. I don't need any other color in the center. The center is done. I kind of like the outside here, although I can take a little bit of that yellow orange again and mix it together, maybe a little lighter. And you can touch it up in places if you want to emphasize, you know, some of the lines around the sun. But we're going to work basically from the outside now. So I'll come in here. Every now and then I'll put a little line. But we're only going to work out here. So I like this red orange the way it is. I don't think I want to add anything more there. If I do, it'll just be, again, just a little line here. And then I'm going to get darker on the edges. Okay? So when I get dark on the edges, in order to blend, it has to be wet, which means I'm going to have to take some more of this red orange. This time when I add my yellow and my orange together, I want it to be a little more orange, just a tad bit more orange. So I'm going to put a little bit more yellow on my plate. I have plenty of red on my plate. I didn't need that much even. And I'm going to mix it so it's a little bit bolder this time, if you guys can kind of see that, a little bit bolder. So out here, see how much bolder, how much darker that looks? Okay, so I'm going to wet that though. I want you to wet it. I don't want you to go thick on paint. So wet that color so that when you paint out, it isn't like solid. Wet your brush again if it's not wet enough, if you're getting too much paint, and brush it all the way to the outside. And when you come in here, don't go too far. All right, because we're still going to get a little darker. And I'm going to do the same thing out here. You get a tad bit darker than that, but not too much. And again, you want to go in a circle. Go in a circle up here. Do not touch your center. Do not touch your center. You can grab some of the original yellow. This is where I'm talking about blending. And blend it back in if you want. Make sure you clean your brush and get the orange off when you pick up that yellow though. So if not, you'll do what I just did. Okay. Every time you add this bright yellow in, you're going to see how much darker it's going to get. So right now I'm not painting with the orange anymore, I'm just painting with the yellow. I'm just blending some of that back there. And I'm going to put some up here because remember I was trying to shorten the circle. And then if for some reason you start to lose that circle, put some of that lemon yellow again, blend it with what's there. And the way you blend is you have the outer color, which is this yellow, right here. And then let's say I pick up some of that lemon yellow right here, right? And then you just kind of go up and then you go back down. And then you go up and you get back down. And you can go in a circle if you want. Okay. So right now everything looks very, very, very line-ish. My original, everything was smudged. So this next coat, we're going to be more smudgy. And then we're going to start working on our lines. We're about halfway. Did you guys catch up a little? Plus we can let the canvas dry. And so right now is a good time to paint your edges if you're waiting on me. But we're letting everything dry a little bit. On the center part. The outside should start to dry again. If you keep using water and you're not using really thick paint, your canvas should dry fairly quick, especially if you have a fan on. So for the outside, it's very tricky. I don't want you to get dark in here. So we're going to work from this time, instead of working from in here somewhere, we're going to work from the outside and come back in. And so I had switched up my color. So let me show you a little bit. This is where we're going to start to get a little smudgy. I had switched up my color. So you can kind of see on the right, it looks more red, and on the left, it looks more brown. So that's what I'm going to do. Same thing. I'm going to do two corners. Very quickly, I'm going to take a little bit of red paint on the end of my brush, and I'm going to wet my brush and just kind of smear that in, mix the red paint with a little bit of water so that when you can kind of see, it's just kind of watery thin. And then on the right top corner, I'm going to put a little bit of red paint. Okay, and I'm going to kind of turn it in, kind of in this, as a circle, like you're following those lines, right? Fill it with red paint, very thin, watery thin. Then I want you to clean your brush very quickly. Dry your brush. I'm going to do four corners. You get to experience this, don't worry. And I'm just going to smudge this in the corner, and I'm going to come in a little bit, not too far. And then I'm going to pick up some of that original yellow that I was using, and I'm going to mix it in that corner. Except for the very, very far end where it's red, I want you to take some of the yellow and I want you to mix it in. And now I don't want you to worry about the lines. Now I want you to smudge a little bit. So see how I'm smudging it around? You can also use your flat brush for this, by the way, if you're not using this one. I'll show you the next corner with the flat. Okay? So I'm going to go to the other end. You're not going to see that one as well because of where my picture is. Let me see if I can move that a tiny bit. There we go. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of the red again, watery red. Make sure you wet your brush. Grab a little bit of red. Red's very messy, a very strong color. I'm going to do that corner. Maybe not that runny. Okay, at an angle. And then I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to dry my brush. And I'm going to smear it around. Smudge it around, smear it around, however you want to call it. Don't go in too far. I probably just went in too far. And then just kind of brush it. Take your brush and move it around a little. If you get too much, if you don't want it towards the bottom, it's up to you if you want to bring it over. Because we're going to start with brown over here. Okay. And again, if you have too much red, if you're seeing too much red and you don't see a blend, take some of your yellow and come back and mix it in the corner. Leave your red, the very end of the corner red, but mix that up in there. Okay. Now what we just did with the red, we're going to do the same thing with the burnt sienna. So if you don't have burnt sienna, which is that kind of reddish brown, kind of auburn color, you can take a little bit of red with a tiny drop of black and create yourself a burgundy, and then maybe add a little bit of yellow to it, and that'll give you the same basic color. Okay, so I'll say it again. You can take some of your red, move it over, add a little bit of yellow and a drop of black, and that should give you, I'm going to show you here in just a second, need a little bit more yellow for it. My burnt sienna, if you can kind of see it, is here where there's a little drippy area, and then just above it is the area I just mixed. So they're pretty close. It's going to be a little more reddish, but that should work. And if you add more yellow, it gets more brown. Okay? So I'm going to take this color, I'm going to wet my brush, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the red. So I'm going to come, not in those corners, but the opposite corner. I'm going to take that orangey, reddish, maroonish, or burnt sienna color, and I'm going to shove it in the corner. Then I'm going to clean my brush, dry my brush, and then smear it around. Okay, smear it around, and then I'm going to take some yellow. Clean your brush really, really well. I'm running out of yellow. Use a lot of yellow in this painting. I'll get myself a little bit more yellow. But I do want to work quickly because you don't want it to dry. It won't blend if it's dry. Take some of the yellow, mix it in, and smear it around so you don't have a corner mark. Okay, if you have some brush marks, take it from the outside, drag it in a little with your brush. Didn't mean to get it in there. I'm going to grab some water and blend it back. Okay. That creates that little darker corner. The last thing we're going to do once it's dry is we're going to throw some yellow everywhere, and then it'll look a lot neater. Same thing in the other corner. Grab some of your burnt sienna. I'm going to paint it. Everybody see what I'm doing? Here we go. Paint it in that corner. My burnt sienna is not as thick a paint as these others are, so it tends to be a little lighter. Anyway, which means I don't really have to clean my brush to blend it around so much. But if you have too much paint, you'll want to do that because you don't want to go in too far. Then clean your brush, dry your brush, grab a little bit of yellow, and come in here and blend those two colors together. And remember what I said, you go out, you go in, you go out, you go in, and that will blend the colors. And then you want to touch everything lightly at the end to make sure you don't leave brush marks. You can touch up anything you want at this point. But we're going to add some yellow at the end, and then we're going to start painting our birds. When we paint our birds, we're going to use a small brush to draw the outline. And I'm going to recommend that if you're not real comfortable drawing, that you use a small brush, maybe as small or thin as this, or a little tiny detail brush, okay? And you use some white paint just to sketch the bird. Once you get the bird in, you don't want to work with thick paint. You're going to want to work with a watery white paint. Once you get the birds in the way you like them and that white paint dries, then you can fill them in with black. And that way, if you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to fix. Okay, so if you don't have a small brush, you can use even one of the bigger brushes. For example, my big brown brush here, when you wet it, has a little bit of a point, okay? And so I could use that too. But you do want to use just the tip of your brush, and then that way you can create a nice little sketched bird, and then you can fill it in with black once that white paint is dry. Okay? So before we do that, we want to go ahead and do that coat of yellow. So I want you to check. I know your red corners will be more dry than your brown corners. So check your paint. If you're working with watery paint, again, it should be fairly dry. But here, I just touched that. That's still wet. That's still wet. So we're going to start in the corners that are dry, and I'm going to take my original yellow paint. And this time, I'm actually going to come in. See, I'm doing the red corners, right? And I'm going to go right over everything. Right over everything. Even the red. If you're not using a very thick yellow, it should go over nicely without covering the red completely. If it's starting to cover it, wet your brush and make that paint just a little more watery. Okay? Now you don't have to go in that line. Now you can kind of smudge. You can just kind of smudge any direction you want. X's and O's. It doesn't matter. Okay? I'm not going to my brown corner yet. I'm not going to go to the very center, but I'll get close. Same thing on this corner. I'm just toning down the red. And then I'm going to come in here. And I said I wasn't going to make it look like fall, but it still looks like fall colors because it's the sun. Kind of like a sunset, right? I've seen some pretty sunsets here lately. All right, check your corner. This one's drier than this one, so I'm going to come up here. And if it's still wet, don't do it. You can wait. You can wait, you can do it later. You see, I'm smudging it in pretty fast. That's all we're going to do for the background once we get this in. Okay, and then the other side. Check looks like my corner's fairly dry. And if it's not completely, brush it lightly. You can go right over it and brush it lightly. So you're not trying to mix the color, because that's not our goal. In this case, we're not trying to blend. We're trying to tone down those brighter colors. So it all looks like it's part of the sun. Okay, anywhere you want to touch up now, feel free. Try to keep the center part of your sun as lit as possible. As light as possible. And if you accidentally, go over an area you don't want, you can just take a little bit of lemon yellow and go right over it. Okay? All right. There we go. And if there's a corner you don't love, like that's not my favorite corner. It's funny, on my left, on my previous or sample, it was the left corner that I didn't love. I love this one, like that blend. But that's all right. I can touch it up if I want later. But what's going to happen is once you put the words in and you put the birds in, it's not going to be the focus of attention anymore. Right now, that's all we're looking at, right? Okay? All right. And even if you have wet paint behind you, you're going to still be able to sketch. Because if you make a mistake, like I said, you'll go ahead and you'll clean that up. I'm moving things over just a tiny bit here. Maybe lining it up a little bit more so you can kind of see mine. All right, so we're not filling the letters yet. We're not filling the wires in. We're going to draw the white birds, and then the last thing we're doing is filling in the black. And you're going to have, let's see, what time is it? 3:07. You're going to have plenty of time to do that. That's the part that takes everyone the longest. And I'm going to be doing it. I may or may not finish before you, but even if I do, you'll have time to do the rest of it after this video is over. Okay, after this live feed, I should say, is over. You'll be able to access the video on my page, Tutoring Art, if you need to watch it again, if you missed a step, or if you had to stop halfway and you want to take a break and then you wanted to come back to it, you'll be able to access it and you'll be able to finish. So if you have an opportunity when you're finished with your painting and you can post it on my event page or post it in the comments for the video, or even send me a message and send me the picture. I'd love to see it. I've already gotten a couple from folks previously, and at some point, maybe when all this, all this stuff is over and everybody's back to normal and everything, I'm just going to post one long video or slideshow of everybody's paintings and other work that they will have done alongside with me. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and use my small thin brush again. You can also use, let me see, I should have another one I can show you. I have one of these too, which again, if you wet the tip of the brush, you'll see that it's pretty small. If that makes you feel better, you can use one of those too. Okay? I'm going to use my long thin one. Okay, and I just moved my thing again. All right, so I keep kicking it. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of white paint. I'm going to wet my brush and I'm going to dip it in a little white paint, and then I'm going to roll my brush around because I don't want to work in a thick white paint. I want to work in a watery thin paint. So, and you do not want a clump on the end of your brush. So if I had a group of people right now, I'd be, okay, everybody say it, no clumps. So out there you're going, no clumps. All right, so you want nice and thin white paint right there. See? No clump. And you can hardly see the white paint because it's like half water, half paint. All right? And the first one we're going to do is the most important one because he has a job to do and he has to hold that heart up. So the way to do the bird is you're going to draw a circle and then you're going to draw an oval. And the first thing you're going to do is the circle. So his head is actually above the wire, and then his beak holds the heart. So it doesn't matter if he holds the heart here or he holds the heart here. So if it looks like you don't have enough room for a body over here, I would suggest you make him hold the heart on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little V for Vivian, so you guys don't forget my name. A little V for Vivian right above. And I'm going to use white paint, even though I'm telling you guys to do it thin, because I don't think you're going to see it otherwise. Okay? I'm going to do a little V. Everybody see that V? All right? Because that's the most important part. It's his job. He's got to hold the heart. So I'm going to do the V. And then from there, I'm going to draw a circle above that. So just a little circle, not very big, maybe the size of your thumb. So if I put my thumb there, that gives you an idea. So I'm going to, and you want it to be lined up, kind of like a giant ice cream cone, lined up with the edge of this V right here. So that's about the size of my thumb, more or less. if I stick my thumb in there, give it a thumbprint. So a little V, a little circle. Looks like a ice cream cone, kind of leaning to the right. Now to do his body, we're going to connect these two. We're going to create a little curve. So you have the little V, you have a little circle. Now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to create a curve that's going to actually touch the wire, so like an arch. An arch right there at the top of that heart. An arch. Okay. Like that. So I'm going to show you again. Circle, right? V, circle, and an arch. Now from that arch at the bottom here, from here to here, is going to set up your oval. So I'm going to create an oval, and that oval is going to be probably, I would say, 2 fingers long. So I'm going to create maybe, see here, so something like this. And I want it at an angle. So before you do that, you see the top of the circle? I want you to create another kind of arch that kind of curls up. So right on top, like you're giving it hair, right? Right up here, like that, a curve. Because you want that oval to fit in here. And you want it at an angle, kind of like a bean, leaning to the right, or an O leaning to the right. So everybody see that? A little curve here, a little curve here. Now I'm going to create that little bean to the right. About, what did I say, 3 fingers? 3 fingers. He's a little fat bird. He's a little fat bird. I'll just blend that white in because that way it'll dry faster. So if you have too much paint, and I know both of you are using watery paint, you're going to be fine. But because I'm demonstrating, I'm doing more of the white paint. All right, and then the tail kind of shoots up off the edge. There's this little curve and it just shoots up. And then from here, and then it creates a little heart at the very end of the tail. So I'm going to go up, curl in, curl out, and bring it back down here and connect it. If you want to exaggerate it, okay, now it looks kind of funny right now, right? But once we fill it in with black paint, it'll be fine. If you're unsure, and I would I'd wait before you go and fill in the black, but make sure that you smear some of that white paint around if you have too much so it dries. But when we finish our last birds at the bottom, we'll go back and we'll fill everything in. Okay, careful, I just tried to smear it the wrong way. Making his tail too wide. He's got a very fat tail. And so like I said, if you make a boo-boo, see, I can come back in here and I can add a little bit of color and no one will be the wiser other than you guys. Right? So that's my example. That was my boo-boo. I'm going to try not to make any more. Okay? That's his tail. All right, sometimes painting from the side is not easy, which is going to be harder now that I'm doing these birds at the bottom. Now I had 3 birds. All right, I had 3 birds. You are welcome to do 2. You're welcome to do 1. You can make them lovebirds. You could create a whole line of birds if you want. Once you see how easy it is to do it, you saw how easy that one was, then you'll be able to do the rest of those. Okay? So the tails are, like I said, an elongated heart, basically. And then the bodies are a circle and an oval and then the little triangle to the side. Now, I'm going to follow my original. So you can see the bird in the center. He's looking away from you, and the other two, his friends, are looking at him. And so I'm going to go ahead and follow that same pattern. Okay, that's up to you. So I'm going to take white paint again. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the one in the center first. So figure out your plan here. You got a bird here, you got a bird here, you got a bird here. So I'm going to do my center bird probably under, maybe under, I would do it under the N, but I think I'm going to do it like between the N and the O. I'm going to start him down here. Okay. Now, the only thing is, in this case, my oval is going to start, is the first thing I'm going to do. So I want him to be about the same size as this one here. So I figured that that was, what did we say, about a little less than 3 fingers. So when I go up with him, I'm going to do no more than 3 fingers. So probably to here. That makes about sense? Yeah. And he's an oval. You can even make him kind of heart-shaped if you want, kind of like an egg where it's bigger at the top and smaller at the bottom. Okay, so that's kind of an oval egg. An oval or an egg. All right, that's the first one. Can everybody see that? I'll do it again, just so you guys can see it. So I'm looking at the screen and I'm going, well, I don't know if you can see that. All right, okay. Now, from the top, you're going to add a circle. Remember, the circle was about the size of my thumb, or maybe even your pointer finger. So I'm going to do a circle about the same size. So look at my circle here. I'm going to do it. Oh, look what I did. I didn't even notice that until just now. Oops. That's all right. I'll touch it up. I don't even know when I did it. Okay. So I'm going to do the circle right above his head. Right now he looks like a little snowman. And if you accidentally get a little bit of color where you're not supposed to get it, I'm going to take some lemon yellow and go in there, touch it up. That would be dry when I go to do my letters. Okay. All right. Now you have to connect his head and his body. So rather than the sharpness there, I'm going to create a little curve here. And I'm going to create a little curve here. Okay, so it's curved. And then remember that tail? That's kind of like an elongated heart. I'm going to come out here. Curve, curve. I'm working at an angle, so I'm having a hard time with my curves. All right. That's bird number 2. Now I'm going to go with bird number 3. Now bird number 3, I'm going to start on the left. It's going to be the same thing, an oval, but this time instead of the egg being straight up and down, we're going to have it lean towards the right because I have my bird leaning in. All right. So instead of straight up and down, I'm going to start here. And let's see how close do I want them? Probably here. I'm going to kind of plan it. So I'm going to go out here. And I'm going to go out here. And you see how he's leaning just a little bit to the right. Just a little bit. Could have exaggerated that more. But that'll work. And then the tail, no, actually the head, sorry. These two are going to have a beak. So I'm going to put the head here. And I'm going to create that curve to connect. So it doesn't look like a marble sitting on top of an egg. And this time he needs a beak. So I'm going to create a little V off to the side, just a little tiny one, just like that. And then add his tail. Now his tail's going to kind of lean over to the, or just kind of lean towards the left. This looks like he's leaning. So it's not straight up and down. Everybody's quiet. In my house, everybody's quiet. On the internet, nobody's commented except for Laura when she first signed in. Feel free to comment. But I know it's hard to paint and type at the same time, so okay. Yeah, I'll give myself some love. Drink some water. That's what I'm doing. Okay, next one. Same thing, but their direction. And the right one, it was a little further away, but you can make them as close or far away as you want. So I'm going to start about the same height here. I'm going to lean in about here. And so I'm going to go this way and create that egg. It kind of leans this way. The first one was leaning towards the right. I mean, the first one's straight on. The second one was leaning towards the right. And this one's leaning towards the left. And then I gotta give him a little head right there. And then I've got to connect those two with a little curve. And then last but not least, his tail, again an elongated heart. And I'm going to have it lean a little bit towards the right, not too much. Okay. Now I think we have all the elements, right? Yeah, we do. Okay. So before you do the black for the letters and before you do the red for the heart, I want you to do a little white paint first because that'll pop that red. Since we have pencil underneath it, it will also cover up the pencil. So first thing, because you got white on your brush already anyway, I want you to just take your brush and as neatly as possible, I want you to outline that heart, and you're going to paint just the outside. Don't paint the inside. The inside is not a solid heart. You can see it's just substituting for the O. So you don't need to paint the inside. You're just doing the outline. You're going to let the white dry, and then when you put that red, it will stand out. Just like that. A little music. We need a little music. Hopefully you guys have some music. I have a nice candle going. Smells like green apple. Which, by the way, I don't like the flavor of. But I love the smell. Okay? Not alone. All right. For the inside of the clothespins, I took that orange that we used here and added a little white to it. So if you have some of that color, great. If you don't, you can go ahead and mix a little bit. Remember, that was just the red and the yellow. And if you want to add a little, even some burnt sienna to that, and then a little bit of white to it. I don't want it to be too light though. Yeah, I just added too much. Almost looks pink. Almost looks pink. And then I'm going to start over here and I'm going to fill that in maybe a little lighter. Otherwise it just kind of blends in with the background. Kind of a peach maybe. So there's one. There's two. And I'm going to go ahead and put black around those, which, like I said, you'll need continue to use a small brush for that. But when you fill in those birds, I would use a bigger brush so you don't mess up your small point on your brush. So I'm using a peach. You can use a white. You could use a gray if you wanted, because you have black and white on your palette. And the last one here. Okay, now I'm ready for black. So I'm not going to use this brush for the painting for the inside of the birds, because I will ruin the tip of it. So I'm going to clean that really, really well, set it aside. I used my flat brush. I'm not going to use that anymore, so I'm going to clean that real well, set it aside. Then I suggest you clean them with a little bit of soapy water after. And then there are lots of brush cleaners out there you can buy to recondition your brushes. And I meant to have the jug of it with me so I could show you guys. But when you're painting with acrylic paint, you know, there's always going to be a little acrylic that kind of stays. The pigment's going to stay in your brush. You know, this brush, when I first started using it, was a nice light color, and now it's got all kinds of colors in it, and that just happens. But when you recondition it, you can get that original color back, and you can get the original texture of the bristles back too. So don't feel like if you've got a brush that you had some paint dry on that it's completely ruined. You can buy some type of brush reconditioner, and it is a chemical, so you have to be careful with that. But you just need a tiny bit. You set your brushes in it for a while, and it will miraculously pull most of the paint off, and you'll have a nice clean brush again. Okay? All right, so now everything should be fairly dry. I'm going to take my smaller round brush that I had, this one here, the green one, and I'm going to wet it, and I'm going to dip it in some black paint. And you don't need to water down your black paint, but if it's been sitting on your plate for a while, you might need a little water just to smooth it out. I'm going to start with the birds on the bottom, and then I'm going to work my way up and work on this bird, and then I will do the letters last. So you're just going to fill in. And when you work on the edge, you want to cover up that white. You work from the inside, because if you work from the outside, you don't have a steady hand, you'll likely end up with a crooked edge. Okay? See, so I'm working from the inside, and then I'll come back out. And even when I go to work on this one, I'm going to work from the inside. And I'm just kind of lining it. Add some more black paint on the inside. And I'm working from a strange angle. Not the way I normally work. I tried using my big easel. The problem is the camera angle. So for the next session, I just ordered a tripod, and I may end up doing this with my phone again. But what I like about doing it through my computer is that it lets me log in information on the Facebook Live video up front, like, you know, where I'm located, description. I just put the materials list in the description. And it also lets me kind of practice the angles ahead of time. I don't know, I mean, you can do that on your phone too, I think, but there was something else, I can't remember what it was, that I really preferred. But this is the first time I'm doing it on the computer. We'll see how it turns out. Okay. If you end up with some white edges, you can always touch those up. I'm not at a very good angle to do that right now. So rather than mess up my painting, I'm just going to go ahead and come back and touch it up. And then the beak. So you can come back really close. A lot of times I hold my, you know, brush like a pencil, and I'll get real close and I'll do those little edges. But I've got my cameras right here, like my Surface Pro, and I'm over here, and so it's hard. I can't, if I get in front of the camera, then you won't see what I'm doing. So this is how I'm doing it for now. I'll figure out a better way later. I'm not set up for video taping my sessions, and so this has been great practice for me, and maybe down the road I'll be able to offer some classes online on a regular basis for a small fee. Maybe I teach all kinds of things. So while I'm filling this in and while you guys are filling yours in, we have about 25 minutes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's coming up. I work in a lot of different mediums. I have for a long time because I teach classes, and so it's kind of got me out of my comfort zone. I've taught classes in watercolor and chalk pastel and sculpting with clay. I have taught junk sculpture, obviously pencil and charcoal and graphite water-soluble pencils, which I'm going to teach a session, or do a demonstration, I should say, on Friday at 2 o'clock. And all these are replayable. So in other words, if you can't be live with me, although it's kind of nice if you have people there with you, which kind of is the point of this, sort of. But it gives you an opportunity to watch it later. It gives you an opportunity to get a group together, well, a family group together, people that are in your household together. I can encourage groups otherwise. And maybe down the road you can get a group together. These will be available on my site. And I'm also on Wednesday. Oh, I didn't give this one a beak. I guess I probably should. Forgot about the beak. Maybe you guys already did it because you caught me missing it. I don't like this brush. For some reason the bristles are not very good. I'm gonna switch over, strangely enough, to my bigger one for now, because this one actually has a nice edge. You can kind of see. Yeah, so much better. So much better. So funny. I'm watching this on my phone and it's delayed. And I know I said that before, but it just cracks me up. And I know, I guess I feel most for people who are stuck at home alone. Although I get how that would be relaxing, not to have a lot of noise around you, but after a while, I suppose you get lonely. My daughter, who's home from college and working online now, like most university students are doing, Mrs. are friends, so they do these, chats at any given time. She and some of her friends watched a movie together last night. I guess they were on their phone. They watched it on their other device, and then they were on their phones in a chat room, and so they could comment and stuff. And that's the only way you can do it. Okay. Bird number 3. See, I'm still working on it on my phone, but in real life, I'm done with that third bird. Watching my technique. I'm amusing myself. There's no one else to amuse. All right. Oh, hey, Sarah Field. How are you? Gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. And I certainly haven't talked to you in a long time. And I don't know if you're on Facebook much. It's strange. They have this post that people kind of post to say, oh, I got all these friends on Facebook, but I only see posts from this many people. I don't know if that's true or not. But what I have found is that I have a lot of friends that aren't on Facebook all the time. So I don't give it that much credence. He's a little fat bean. A little fat bean. Oh, and we forgot. Remember, I've got to give this one a little beak over here as he's turned to the side, looking at his friend. So this is just for fun, right? Just for fun. I was talking about the different classes I do, and some of them are more instructional, for technique and such. Oops, just messed that up a little bit. But, I've been doing these painting classes for a while. They're really popular, wine and painting parties, that kind of thing. I was doing them as fundraisers, still doing them in Maryland. I have an artist, Tara, that's working with me. And I've done a few here in Virginia, but I'm focusing more on more of the technique instruction. And I'm teaching kids and adults. And so some of these that I'm going to be demonstrating are classes that I'll be doing at the Art Center. Some I can do private lessons as well. And I think I included most of the mediums. I am going to do Wednesday, I'm going to do a pyrography demonstration. And for those of you that don't know what pyrography is, you can burn on wood, you can burn on leather, but it's using a hot tool. You burn into the wood, you burn a design into the wood. And so I started doing that a few years ago, and I had all this wood that my father-in-law gave me. He was making live edge furniture at the time. And live edge furniture is when you use a piece of wood that has a natural edge to it, and you don't sand it down necessarily, but you leave most of its natural shape. Maybe you leave the bark. And I started doing that, and I just was having a lot of fun. And so I ended up buying a professional burner, although I was using a $30 or $35 burner from Michael's initially, which I loved. And so on Wednesday, I'm going to show everyone that wants to watch the tools that I use. I will share some of the work I've done, and I will demonstrate. So if you want to just tune in and listen or watch, that's what I'll be doing Wednesday. And on Friday, I mentioned the water-soluble pencils. We'll be doing a little bit of a drawing lesson, and then we'll go into kind of using these pencils. It's kind of like using watercolor, but you're using gray tones. And that will be Friday at 2 o'clock. I haven't put a list together for that one yet, so if you keep an eye out, I should get that together later today. And I think I'm going to go ahead and start planning next week's session, since we know we're kind of in this predicament till at least April 30th, so might as well plan it out. Subject to change. Now when I do these clothespins, I am just doing the outside. You don't need to worry about a perfect line. It wasn't perfect in my original. But I'm just going around the outside, and I'm using the smaller brush. I'm using the smaller one that I don't like too. I don't know why I'm doing that. Let me get rid of that one. Use the one I like. Sometimes your brushes will get a little frayed at the end. Not afraid, haha. Frayed. Which reminds me of a joke. And I always say I don't tell jokes because I'm not that funny. I'm more corny than I am funny. But this is one of the only ones I can remember. So there's this rope. And he goes into a bar. And he says, "Bartender, serve me a drink." And so the bartender looks at the rope and he says, "I'm sorry, but we don't serve rope here." So the rope kind of pouts and leaves the bar. He goes outside and he ties himself up in a knot. And he takes a comb and he brushes out his ends. And then he comes back in the bar and he says, "Hey, bartender, pour me a drink." Bartender walks up and he goes, "Hey, aren't you that same rope that was in here just a few minutes ago?" And he looks at the bartender and he goes, "I'm afraid not." It's hard being a stand-up comic when you have no audience to laugh. That wasn't that funny, was it? All right. So we're just filling everything in now. And we have about 15 more minutes, or a little more than 15 more minutes together. So if you're not finished, or if you finish before me, that's fine. You can finish after. And once again, if you can send me a pic. If you made it a party and you want to send me a picture of the party. If you're with your mom, if you're with your sister, if you're with your daughter or your son, if you're with a friend who got stuck in with you, that kind of party. Don't send me a group of 10 people unless you've been together the whole time. I'm so afraid we're going to be stuck in more than another 30 days. People need to comply. It's good to have some alone time because you're really not alone. Not these days. So many ways to keep in touch. Okay, I'm going to do my letters. Actually, no, I'm going to do my heart because, you guys can do your letters after or with me. But for the heart, I'm just going to take some bright red paint. Now that the white is dry, make sure that white paint is dry. If you were behind me and or you forgot and you just did it, you're going to want to wait. Or you'll end up with a pink heart, which is not the end of the world. But so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to follow this line. This is why I love this brush, because I can use it as a detail brush. But I can also just kind of, like if I start here on the end, I can just drag it. So now I can do the second line here since it's a pretty fat outline. And again, when I can get closer to my painting, if I left any white, I'll touch that up later. Okay. All right, I cleaned that brush. And I'm going to start with my letters. And actually, yeah, let me do that. Let me do a couple of letters, and then I'm going to show you the easiest way to do the lines. So I'm using my small brush again, and this is a great writing brush. because again, it's that long, thin end, which they call a liner for a reason. So I'm wetting my brush though, and I'm rolling it in the black paint because again, you do not want to have a clump. So you can kind of see I've got a fair amount of black paint on there, but there's not a clump on the end. And then I'm just gonna, and I'm in an awkward line, but I'm just gonna drag this brush down. Okay? And then I'm gonna drag it this way. And then I'm going to drag it up this way. Okay, so there's my N. And then I'm going to do I'm going to do the word not. And then if I have time, as we're closing down the video, I will finish my letters. A little wider on one side, come back. A little wider on this side. Okay. And then T. And the whole point of these particular drawings, painting sessions, are just to relax and paint for fun. You don't have to have painted before. You don't even have to be able to draw. And the truth is, if you're just doing this for practice and you're not going, you say, oh, I don't know if I'm going to end up hanging this. Although this one might be something to remember during this self-quarantine. But you can certainly paint over it. I have canvases, as I've done so many of these events, that I have painted over with either just white paint or a gesso, which is a little thicker substance you put over a canvas, and I let that dry, and then I can paint over it. And then I can reuse my canvases, and I could paint whatever I want on it. One of the things I was doing is I was painting I was doing acrylic pours over my canvases, and I'll do one of those demonstrations. I only do that once in a while. I was using it primarily for backgrounds for some of the paintings that I do, but it's so therapeutic and it's so much fun. And there's an artist that is at our studio at the Art Center. Her name is Deanna, and she is so good at it. I think what I love most about her paintings is she's so wonderful at choosing the colors to go together, and that's kind of important. So if I decide to do a demonstration, that's something we'll talk about. And then my original buddy, who used to do this on a regular basis, and now I don't get to talk to her very much. She kind of walked me through the whole process. And I'll tell you a little bit more her about in just a second, but let me go ahead and show you this. So this is a flat angled brush. You guys kind of see that? And I'm at a strange angle ironically, to use this brush. But theoretically, you should be able to just drag that across and give yourself a line. So I can't do it from that angle because I'm too far away. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to go like this. And then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to go all the way off like that. Okay? So I press down. It's a little thicker, but this one you don't have to worry about your lines being too crooked, so you can just drag that all the way. So here, let me see if I can do it from here. I'm at a strange angle. So you can kind of drag it off like that. Okay? So this brush is kind of easy. This is a big one to use. You probably need a little thinner, but if you've never used this before, it's really helpful. And then I can go there, and then I can go here. All right, so I'll finish the rest of those lines later where I can reach it better. And we're at about 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and keep working on my letters here in just a moment. Let you guys catch up a little bit. I'm trying to get rid of my screen. I don't know how to get rid of my screen. So I'm going to go back out. I don't know how to get rid of it. How do you get out of it? No idea. There we go. I got back out of it. Okay. I'm going in. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my letters and talk to you a little bit more. Okay, so I was telling you about a friend of mine. So she originally was doing the acrylic pours, but she used resin and did some amazing compositions. And she was kind enough to share her talents with me and teach me a little bit about her process. I never have mastered resin. There's an artist also at the Art Center. Gosh, am I going to forget her name now? Carrie, I think it is, who does resin pours, and she does some beautiful illustrations under resin, and she has a class which is resin coasters, which I promised I was going to take at some point when we can resume doing classes. And my friend, like I said, that originally taught me, it's her birthday today. I just thought about that. Her name is Dawn O'Connor. She's very talented. And I wished her a happy birthday this morning. I almost forgot. So that's an option as well. So if there's something you want to learn, something I've listed, I still haven't probably told you everything, but I've told you some of it. I'm going to do an air dry clay class because I have some air dry clay that I want to use. You can get some of that at Michael's. If you can get into Michael's, you can order it online. So I'm not going to do it yet. That's why I'm going to go ahead and set some of this up in advance so that you have time to order things online and get them. Because I don't give you enough notice and the stores are closed, then you can't get what you need to do the class with me. Of course, you can do it at a later time. Okay. It's like watching paint dry if you're just watching. I'll fix my lines later. Because I can use this. The problem is, like I said, I'm at a strange angle. So see, I'm going to mess it up. So I'm not going to do it right now. I'll fix my lines later. The other thing you can do is you can actually use a ruler and just kind of follow a line, straight line above or below it. You just got to hold that ruler straight on. All right, you know what? I'm going to try. At least I'll feel like I finished the whole thing. My class the other day, I did everything but one window. And I'll touch these up later. Bird on a wire. All right. Yay. That's it. That's all she wrote. Now, it goes a lot faster for me when I'm teaching here at home because most of these events I usually plan for 3 hours. Most of the time, it's because you have a large group of people who are having conversation, they're getting some food, they're getting some drink, and they don't all hear me the first time I say something. So I have to repeat it once or twice more, hopefully not more than that. And it just takes more time. But I'm sitting here by myself, working at my own pace, and I was able to finish this under 2 hours. So when I can finish a painting, and I am doing some teaching, so I'm going a little slower than I would normally go. But if I were to do this on my own without teaching it, I could probably do this painting in an hour and a half. They're intended to be easy paintings. Now, some of my paintings are harder than others. Some of them I'm going to teach you a little bit more about blending, and I'm going to show you little shortcuts on when you do your, your design or your or the drawing aspect of the painting. But this one's a pretty easy one. And either way, you get to learn something. So I'm just going to pick some random paintings, but if there's a suggestion you have, you can go on my website. When I relocated to Virginia, I cut back some of my paintings, so some are not there, and this one was one of them, simply because I had used it for one event and not another, and it just was fitting for the moment today. So I may have a couple more of those that I might pull back out if they make sense, and I might even create a couple new ones for this. But I will continue to do the step-by-step painting once a week, not always on a Monday. I think it was the first one I did last week, but I did it on Wednesday. So next week I might do it on Wednesday, and then the following week I might do it on Friday, and I might even try to do one at a happy hour. But regardless, if you can't sit in and watch, tune in at any later time, and you can watch it and do that without my awkward narration as I talk to myself, right? Okay, so it is 3:58. I think I'm going to end a couple minutes early. I thank you very much for joining me today, for painting with me. I hope you had a good time, and don't forget to share your paintings, and don't forget to give me suggestions, and please join me on Wednesday and Friday if you have time. Other than that, have a wonderful week, and my motto for this epic situation we're going through is stay healthy. See ya.